Alright, say hi, Ian.
Hey.
Welcome back to another Kids Room Podcast episode, man. Brought to you by yours truly, bro. Hey, one thing is for certain, failure is not an option, ladies and gentlemen. Failure is not an option. No matter if it takes you a week, a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year, failure is never an option. We have to continue to realize them hard days, them character building days, hey, those are the things that we need. Those are the things that's going to cause us to realize it's not going to happen overnight. What you see on social media is more than likely fake most times. But the people that you see that are popping up and they're successful, those people probably have been working for a long time. So that's why you should never look at somebody else's plate and think you can eat off of theirs. Because you don't know how much your appetite can take versus somebody else's. Some people eat more than others, and that's because it's not always size. Skinny people can eat just as much as someone that's big, and big people might not eat as much as skinny people. Everyone's different. But failure is not an option. Failure is something that we learn from. It's something that we can gain from. What you think you lose is something that sometimes that you gain. That's why there's multiple lives in a video game. If you fail or so-called die in that level, right? That's something that you get a retry in. You might get 3, and then what happens? You end up, the game just doesn't disappear off the system, right? The game just doesn't disappear, and then all of a sudden you buy the game, you lost, you failed so many times, and now you don't ever get to play the game again. No, you get to play the game as many times as you get to play it until you beat it. And you know, when we were younger, you play that game so many times, you get so good at it, then those failures become successes over time in life. The job that you're at, you weren't good at maybe at first because you had to learn certain things, but as you learned and people taught you, your failures became your successes, right? So failure is not an option. It can't be an option because it's something that you actually are gaining from. And if you choose to ignore those lessons, yeah, maybe you are failing, but you're really just gaining more weakness, right? You're just gaining more regret. You're just gaining things that you don't need. You're gaining negativity, right? You're still gaining something, but it's not helping you. It's holding you back. And it goes to show in the word as well. Failure is not an option. In Psalms 73 and 26, my flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. God is everlasting. God is eternal. So failure is not an option. Because if my heart, my flesh, those are physical things, those may fail, but God is the strength of my heart. Something that is surpassing that. Failure is not an option. It's my portion forever. Right? Forever. It's just a word. But forever, it's the same thing as failure is not an option. If we fail does not mean God fails. If you mess up does not mean that you messed up God's plan. We can't do that. When you realize that you can't mess up God's plan, you'll realize this verse. You'll realize how much strength this verse has, because failure is not an option. It may fail. We may fail, but God will never fail. Ever. This brings me to my next verse, Proverbs 24 and 16. For though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again, but the wicked stumble when calamity strikes. How you think of yourself in hard times, how you talk to yourself in hard times, will ultimately push you into how your future may look. So Every time you fall, you talk bad about yourself or you give up, right? That's whenever the wicked stumble. That's when calamity strikes. And calamity is a big word, right? But sometimes it's as little as waking up with a bad attitude. And waking up like, oh, this is going to be a bad day. Calamity is going to strike you. And when it strikes you, you're going to give up. But if you wake up and you don't feel like it, but you do it anyway, that's you rising again, right? You can fall with an attitude. You can fall with something that's physical, like you can really mess up on something or a decision. But you have to rise again. You have to move past that. Failure cannot be an option for us. This is one life. Time is going to go by. So whether you do it now, you do it later, God's plan is always going to prevail. So do it while you're young. Or do it now. Or whether you're old or whether you're young. 25 is not old. 30 is not old. Even 40 is not old. It's not too late. Failure cannot be an option to you. And you can't sit back and wait for it to come back to you. Because it might never come back. You might have to really make something of yourself and make something of the opportunities that you had and bring it back. My last verse of the video is Romans 5:15. But there is great difference between Adam's sin and God's gracious gift. For the sin of this one man, Adam, brought death to many. But even greater is God's wonderful grace and his gift of forgiveness to many through this other man, Jesus Christ. So through Christ, we gain forgiveness and God's grace. So Adam brought death to many, but even greater is God's wonderful grace. And that's the only reason why we're alive and why we're here today, is because of God's grace and his mercy and his forgiveness. And because we messed up as man, once again, goes back to my previous point, in my previous message, or my previous verse, we can't mess up God's plan. That's just how it goes. We can't mess up God's gift for us. He's going to give it regardless, no matter what. And we're going to live out our days how we live it. But God's plan is always going to come. And it's always going to prevail. So failure is not an option. For God, he has already been successful, and it's always written that it's already going to happen. That Jesus Christ came and he died and he rose again. And if you truly believe in that, that's when you're going to get to heaven. You have faith in that. That's when you're going to get to heaven. Failure is not an option, ladies and gentlemen. Forward, start what you want to start, do what you're going to do, and keep pushing no matter how you feel. And I appreciate y'all tapping in with me, man. And I'm going to catch y'all on the next one.